What is up, FPL managers? We are back. It is FPLbodders here. You already know the drill with these transfer tips videos. I may bestow on you some amazing FPL advice. I may give you advice that ruins your season for the rest of the year. We just came off the back of a fairly average game week, so let's take a look at some tips going into game week 23 and hope it's better than game week 22. It wasn't what we were expecting, to be honest, guys. United looked amazing. Could have won the game 4 or 5-0, with Carrick having a very interesting setup. Dorgu left wing with Cunha benched, Mbumo striker, Ahmad right wing and Bruno as the 10. Carrick hinting there could be a lot of rotation in the attack, which makes me a bit wary of Man United attackers despite how good they looked last game week. Looking at Chelsea versus Brentford, Chelsea won, but they didn't look great. You know, they weren't bad, but they weren't great. They could have easily drawn that game. As a Sharda owner, I was pretty upset. He should have scored a goal that game. He missed a big chance. I would almost call it a sitter, but that's what happens in FPL sometimes. When I brought Sharda in, I knew he was prone to missing some big chances now and then, so I can't complain. As for Chelsea, there seems to be a lot of rotation in that attack, but if we can identify the starting attackers, they could be amazing FPL assets because their fixture run gets very good very soon. I don't think many people cared about Leeds versus Fulham. I'm glad Wilson blanked. Some of you probably are. Some of you are upset about it because you own him. Looking to Liverpool versus Burnley though, as an xPts captainer, I am furious. The guy dodged points like he was in the Matrix dodging bullets. It was outrageous. He could have come away with a double-digit haul, and my small red arrow would look like a massive green arrow if he actually converted. I think he should have got at least 1 goal and 1 assist. That's just my opinion as a salty xPts captainer. One thing I will always credit myself on is knowing when a player is going to get decent underlying data. That's one thing I'll say. I'm pretty good at that, but in terms of looking at players who are actually going to be clinical consistently, that's something I'm not amazing at. So it's just something I need to work on. I didn't see Ekatike missing those big chances, but Liverpool fans don't seem too surprised. So maybe I was wrong there, but either way, he was close to scoring big, so I can't complain about my decision there. Spurs, they lost to arguably the second worst team in the league, third worst team in the league, a team that's probably going to get relegated. And I wish I could say I was surprised, but I'm really not. You know, it's nothing new. They'll probably go play against the best team in the world in a few weeks' time and win 4-0. Sunderland assets are looking very good ahead of their fixture run coming up, and the Arsenal defence once again proves to be sensational. Their clean sheet tally is probably going to hit around 20 by the end of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if it was even more. And Sunday's games, they were a shock to all of us. I survived Morgan Rogers and Bruno Guimaraes, but I'm not surprised. I may sound arrogant saying this. I didn't own them both because I don't think they're good FPL assets, and they sort of proved me right this game week, but then again, it's only been 1 game week, so I can't speak too soon. And frustratingly, Bournemouth versus Brighton hasn't been played yet, and I want to talk about Bournemouth especially this game week, and I also have 2 Brighton players, so my small red arrow could be a green by the time I finish recording, and these Bournemouth players I'm talking about in today's video, well, some of the stuff I say might be invalidated after seeing what happens in the Monday night fixture, but hey ho. That's how life works. Alright, fixtures now. Leeds and Newcastle look to be the worst teams for fixture runs. They do not have it easy going forward. I would definitely steer clear of their assets. Even Bruno Guimaraes and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I mean, if you own those sort of players, you could probably hold them for 1 more week, but you definitely don't want to bring them in. In tier 4, you have a few teams who are held down by their entry point, especially Manchester United. Wolves and Forest are also dragged down by their entry point, but their entry points aren't as bad as Man United's, you know. United look amazing in game week 24. Wolves and Forest only look fairly average. Then you got Spurs and Brentford. Their entry points are good, but following that, game week 24, their fixtures look absolutely horrendous, especially Brentford's, you know, game week 24, 25 and 26. That is a team you do not want to own players from, and that's coming from a guy who owns 2 Brentford players right now. Even with how good Thiago's looking, he may be in a void, you know, coming up very soon, which some of you may be shocked to hear because he's on so many goals this season, but there are better strikers to own who have good fixtures. And Liverpool here are quite low, but I wouldn't sell Liverpool attackers just yet because playing away to Bournemouth is by no means a tough fixture for your attackers. In the mid-tier, Aston Villa are also held down by their entry point, okay? After this away game to Newcastle in game week 24, their fixture run is good. Even the likes of Morgan Rogers, who I normally tell you all to avoid, would actually be decent to own next game week. And Watkins, well, his underlying data looks amazing. He's definitely a player I would recommend you all target. Just not this game week because Newcastle have an incredibly strong defence this season and I don't see Aston Villa scoring many goals against them. Also, it's worth noting in game week 26, Arsenal and Wolves will likely have a double game week in that game week 26, which is crucial to know. It's just not confirmed yet, so I'm not going to put anything on this fixture difficulty chart. Not many other teams to talk about here. Looking specifically at Sunderland, if you have bench cover for game week 25, you are looking very solid long term for a player like Mukiel or Brobby, who's looking good at the moment. 2 good Sunderland assets, very cheap. but you don't want to be playing them away to Arsenal. That fixture really drags down their fixture difficulty rating. Teams in tier 2 are hard to analyse. I mean, you have West Ham, right? West Ham look to be one of the worst teams in the league. I said that earlier in the video, but I'm still a Bowen fan, so it could be worth targeting. Looking towards Everton, their attack looks dreadful. Their defenders look good, so players like Tarkowski are good to own. And, you know, maybe with Ndai coming back from AFCON, you know, after winning it, Everton attack could get stronger again, because with him, they looked a lot better going forward. And I'm a huge fan of Ndai as an FPL asset, so it's definitely a situation to monitor. As for Man City, I wouldn't necessarily be eager to target any of their players, because there's a lot of rotation in that entire starting 11 to be cautious of, in the back line, in the midfield, and in the front line. As for teams in the top tier of FPL fixture runs, Munoz return from injury would be incredibly welcome. I think he is one of the best FPL assets in the game, and before his injury, he was so good. The rest of the Crystal Palace assets aren't really worth targeting until you get to that fixture run, you know, the 2-game fixture run with the 2 possible easiest fixtures in all of FPL back to back. I cannot believe someone gets to play home to Wolves and home to Burnley consecutively. That is just unreal. I will want to be owning at least 2 Crystal Palace players for that. Even though it's very short term, that fixture run is too hard to ignore. Bournemouth attackers look good. Like I said, it's really frustrating. I don't know how they line up against Brighton, because Creepy Jr., if he starts starting every single week, then he is definitely the best FPL asset in the game. But if he's a player that's ending up on the bench more often than not, or even getting benched every now and then, he's not a player you'd necessarily want to transfer in. He'd still just be a player you want to sit on your bench. So it's hard to tell. You know, we'll know in a few game weeks time whether Creepy Jr. is going to be a starting 11 player for your FPL teams, or someone you just sit on your bench in case you need some rotation. We don't know just yet, so we'll have to wait and see, monitor their next couple games, but I still like the look of some of their attackers. As for Chelsea, it's unreal. That 4-game run from game week 24 to game week 27 is the best 4-game run we will see all season. They're catching some of these teams at a really good time. Fair enough, Wolves are on fairly good form, and even Leeds aren't awful at the moment, but they're still easy fixtures at the end of the day. And it's exactly what this new manager needs, you know. Hopefully, in this away to Palace game, we'll see who's more reliable for minutes. I think Neto is going to be fairly reliable going forward under this new manager. He will definitely see some rotation, but not in the sense he won't start. I think he will start most games, maybe be an early sub now and then, but if you look at his minutes under the old manager, they were very solid. So I'm hoping it's the same under this new manager. Players to buy for your FPL teams is definitely a week to be targeting defenders, guys, in my humble opinion. Although Anderson is not the best transfer this week, he's mainly a DEFCON demon with a few good fixtures, but the Fulham defence is not anything special, and you would need bench cover in a few game weeks time when he plays away to Man City, but he's decent to own long term as long as you can rotate defenders. But when you get to Tarkowski, that's when the defensive transfers look very good, and this Everton fixture run, like I said earlier, just a second ago, is very strong, and you want to be taking advantage of that fixture run with their defense, because he is absolutely incredible for DEFCONs, you know, better than almost any other defender in FPL by quite a long shot. Although I do see him as a slightly more expensive version of Anderson, but when you pay that extra 1 million, you're better for DEFCONs, you're better for clean sheets, and you're better for goal threat. So if I could bring in Tarkowski, I would. Unfortunately, I can't right now, but definitely a good player to target. Mukiel comes in the top 3 spot. Now, this guy may be the highest scoring 4 million player in FPL to ever exist. It's unreal what he's doing for 4 million. Well, he's nearly 4.5 million now, but his starting price was so damn cheap. I don't know why the FPL headquarters even did this for him. You know, he's so good for DEFCONs. He's good going forward. I owned him on a free hit earlier on this season, and he scored a goal for me. I thought it was going to be from a header or something, but no. He made a darting forward run into the box like a striker would and put it past the keeper. I don't understand how a 4 million defender is doing that sort of thing, but I am not complaining. I've personally never owned him outside of that free hit, but I wish I could. Just once again, make sure you have that bench cover in game week 25 when he plays away to Arsenal. In the top 2, you guys will not be surprised. You know how much of a massive fan I am of this Arsenal defence. I think Timber and Gabriel are still the 2 highest priority players to own in FPL. I would argue even at this point, Gabriel may be even a higher priority than Haaland. He just got upgraded to 8 points instead of 6 in that FPL bonus points update as well, which is really nice for him. Thank you very much, FPL. I appreciate it. Timber is the second best one. He's actually looking very reliable for minutes in this busy schedule, and he is so good going forward. He may get benched for a clean sheet now and then, but he will make up for it in goal involvements. As for Gabriel, you don't really need me to explain this. All of you already own him, or most of you. You know, you have your priorities in order. If you don't, make sure you bring in Gabriel, because you will regret not owning him going forward. So much goal threat. You know, good for defcons, even though in the last 4 games he hasn't really been good for defcons, and he's really good for bonus points. I don't know how he does it. He's so cheap for how good he is. I'm not going to lie to you all, I don't like midfielder transfers this week because players with really bad entry points, like I was talking about earlier, Rodgers and Mbeumo and Bruno, they can't be bought this week because they have awful fixtures and they will probably blank, but next week they look amazing. So these players here, while I think they're the best this week, I personally, if you can, would wait until next week. Wilson though, still looks very good. You know, the Fulham fixture run is alright and Wilson still has decent underlying data. For his price, he is very good. Semenyo is a weird one. His data as a Man City attacker is unreliable, but he is the only attacker that played the full 90 minutes against Man United in game week 22. Which makes me think he could be quite reliable for minutes. I don't know that for sure. That's why he's only a 6 out of 10. He's nothing sensational, but if my hunch is right, he will be a very good FPL asset going forward. There's no doubt Man City needs something new in their attack, and Semenyo has been so good this season. If you are looking for a City midfielder to target this Wolves home fixture, I do believe Semenyo is the best one, although I wouldn't be eager to bring in any City players at the moment. Pedro Neto in a kind of similar situation in terms of rotation, but like I said earlier, I don't think he's going to be a crazy rotation risk. I just think he may be an early sub or get benched every 4 or 5 game weeks, which isn't awful. Just hopefully he starts every game for that 4 game week run I was talking about earlier for Chelsea, because those fixtures look so good. If I was going to bring in Neto, which I might, once again, I personally wouldn't do it this game week, which may sound silly because I'm recommending him. But if I was making a midfielder transfer this game week, which I'm not, Neto would probably be the guy I go for because I believe he's going to be starting most games for Chelsea. And even though Enzo is more reliable for minutes and he's more popular, he is a CDM and I don't think his points are going to be that reliable going forward. And as for Cole Palmer, I honestly think he's a little too expensive for how much he's offering at the moment, which leads me to Pedro Neto. Tavernier stats here don't look amazing. Just a reminder, his game week 22 stats have not been recorded here because he's not played yet, as there's a silly Monday night fixture. Some of you may like it. I find it rather annoying. I'm at work, so I can't even watch it anyway. Yeah, underlying data terrible, but he's on corners, free kicks and penalties at 5.5 million and having a very good fixture run. That is insane. I just don't think you can ignore it. If you're looking for a budget midfielder, he is your guy. And if you guys have been watching my videos for some time now, you will know how much of a huge fan I am of Declan Rice. He blanked the last 2 game weeks. He could have got defcons. He's been very close both times. He's very similar to Tavernier in the sense he takes a lot of free kicks and a lot of corners, but that holds a lot more value when you play for Arsenal because Arsenal are so good at set pieces. Rice is also really good for creating big chances. He also makes forward runs into the box. He can also score from outside of the box. Only Bruno and Shirky have created more big chances than Declan Rice this season. He's very creative, even though he's a CDM, because of the set pieces he has. He's a very good player to own. And I think, you know, because of that double game week in game week 26, he may be essential. Not to mention, Saka's a massive rotation risk now. Do you really want to own Bukayo Saka at 10 million? No, I've been saying it for a while now. He's overpriced and he's just proven it more and more each game week. He's not worth it. None of these players costing 10 million are actually worth their money, which is really annoying because it just makes it so easy to make an FPL team. But FPL made these prices, not me. You just got to play with what you're working with. Honestly, it's not the greatest for forwards either. I know I just said this about midfielders, but due to poor entry points for good players and bad fixtures for players on good form, there's not a lot of good players to buy, but there are some decent ones I like the look of. Like I said about Creepy Jr. earlier, he could be one of the best value FPL assets in the game. I mean, let's say he starts 2 every 3 game weeks, right? Starts every 2, then gets benched for another 1. Sure, it's very, very good value for a player at his price. It's so cheap. But if you've only got a couple free transfers, do you really want to be using those free transfers on a player who may not even start every game? You know, like I said, he's a good player to sit on your bench, but right now I don't think he's a high priority to transfer in your FPL teams. In the number 5 spot, we have Mateta. Like I said, not someone you should be eager to buy, but he's always got potential to score. Jared Bowen, I own Jared Bowen. As an owner, I'm going to hold him. He plays for an awful team, but he has a good run of games. So hopefully he can get me some points very soon. But if I was looking for a forward, he definitely wouldn't top my list. Now, this Brobby differential I actually find really cool. He's a Sunderland striker that's on good form. There's a few things you need to keep in mind though. Sunderland are 20th for XG this season. Worse attack than Wolves, Burnley and West Ham, which I know some of you don't expect, but it's true. Luckily, Brobby's been fairly good at overperforming the XG while he's been their starting striker, which it's not been for long, let's be honest. He's only been there for, what, 5 to 6 game weeks, but he's playing very well, and I don't think he's going to be benched for like Mayenda or Isidore anytime soon. But like I said, he's only been Sunderland's starting striker for 5 or 6 of the last 7 game weeks, so he's not amazing, but I just think he's a really cool differential to own, and I think he'll start most games going forward. Above him, we have Raul Jimenez. Very underrated as a forward option, but once again, he's still nothing special, has a few great games ahead of him, and you will need bench cover for that game when he plays away to Man City. And to sweeten the deal, he is on penalties, got goal threat and assist potential. I'm a huge fan of Raul Jimenez, but just remember, he is cheap. You get what you pay for. In first place, the one forward I would actually recommend you guys buy this game week is Evan Nilsson. Now, I'm going to say it again. I'm recording before the Monday night fixture. If it turns out Evan Nilsson is benched for this fixture, then I'm going to take this all back, okay? He wouldn't be a 7 out of 10. He'd be a 2 out of 10, but I think Evan Nilsson is going to be very good going forward. I think he's going to start every game week for Bournemouth near enough because there's no real rotation risk for him. Even Creepy Jr., if he starts, he's probably not going to start ahead of Evan Nilsson. And the Evan Nilsson data is looking pretty good. He's on hot form at the moment, overperforming the expected goals, which I always like from a striker. Although I'm going to say this, if it were me looking for a forward this game week, I actually wouldn't get one. I'd wait for Watkins to play away to Newcastle in game week 23, then bring him in game week 24. Or I'd wait to see how Chelsea line up because that Chelsea fixture run is so good. But who's going to start a striker? Liam Delap or João Pedro? We don't know. It's hard to tell. João Pedro started last game week and scored. But we know this new Chelsea manager gets on really well with Liam Delap. Played really well under him in the past. But Liam Delap had a stomach bug. Did Liam Delap get benched because of the stomach bug or because he's the second choice striker? We just don't know. It's worth seeing what happens away to Palace before you make any moves on Chelsea forwards. And I think they're the best to target. So if it were me, I'd get either Evan Nilsson or wait until game week 24 to bring in a striker. Foden is still fairly high owned, all right? Currently the most sold player this game week. He's thought to have a hand injury, which is why he was subbed off in the second half against Man United. But Pep said Foden isn't injured. He didn't hurt his hand. It was just a tactical substitution. I don't know what to believe, but we hopefully will hear more closer to the deadline. If he is injured, then he's obviously almost definitely a sell. But, I know a lot of you want to sell Foden because he's been blanking so often. There's two main reasons why I would recommend holding Foden if he isn't injured, despite the fact he was an early sub against Man United. Reason number one is because he plays home to Wolves, okay? Wolves are finding form, yes, but home to Wolves is still an incredibly easy fixture. And if there was ever a fixture for Man City attackers to have an absolute field day, it would be home to Wolves. Even if Foden is a sub, right? He'll get a subbed on and still have a chance at an attacking return. I personally don't think Foden gets benched if he isn't injured. We'll have to wait and see with that one. That's reason number one, okay? Foden's got a really easy fixture. Reason number two, the best Foden replacement plays away to Arsenal in game week 23, okay? I think Bruno, or Mbeumo if you can't afford Bruno, is the best Foden replacement. But I would much rather own Foden home to Wolves than Bruno or Mbeumo away to Arsenal. Meaning, even though Foden is probably a sell, in game week 23, if he's not injured, I would definitely recommend holding him. You know, he may be injured. We'll have to wait and see. Make your decision before the deadline on a Friday after the press conferences, because if it turns out Foden is fine and he can start, then I would much prefer Foden home to Wolves than Bruno or Mbeumo away to Arsenal. It's really weird. Bruno is the most bought in player this game week, I think, and he's playing away to the best defense in the league. Whereas Foden is playing home to one of the worst teams in the league, yet he is one of the most sold players this game week. And guys, fixtures matter a lot in FPL, so just keep that in mind. Don't make your decisions just yet. With all that being said, if you have sold Foden for Bruno or Mbeumo, I really do not blame you, okay? I personally have also had enough of owning Phil Foden. Anyway guys, that's it from me. Let me know what you think of my thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know if you think I missed any hot topics and I can cover it in my next video. Anyway, if you made it this far, thank you very much and I will see you all in the next video.